There are some folks on the internet that try to preach that the earth was formed in 6 literal days. And when non-believers say they don't accept this, the famous Kent Hovind likes to whack them.
Whack an atheist. Now, no atheists were harmed in the making of this video. It's a joke, okay? They were just trying to knock some sense into them, use real science, get your imagination, just imagine. Grow up.
This week, Kent is taking on one of my favourite content creators, Forrest Valkai. So let's step in and whack back, which may include some personal digs at the famous Dr. Dino, but I'll try not to. Hello, I'm the Skeptic, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims and then explain why I don't accept what they're saying. Kent Hovind, a young Earth creationist, believes that the Earth was made in 6 literal days. However, before we carry on, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell. That would be awesome. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks over the last few videos. Robert L., Steve Hawkins, Rognavalda the Skald, Todd Jansen, Scott Fleming, Roger Wenzel and Cheryl W. 1958. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you. More hen. Well, let's get to whacking, Kent.
Tonight, Whack an Atheist Wednesday. We're going to show how stupid the evolution religion is. So many atheists, so little time. Got to keep whacking them. All right. We only do this whacking to wake them up before it's too late. Okay, wake up. You've been taught something dumb, right?
I don't think saying something is dumb is an adequate response, Kent. So if you accept, or as Kent would say, believe evolution, then that's dumb. Okay then. Great. I guess I now believe the Earth was created in 6 literal days.
There is a God, and you must face him one day. Wake up. Okay. Bible says the fool said in his heart, there's no God, and you're a fool if you don't believe in God.
Are you also a fool if you use your brain to formulate conclusions instead of your heart? And of course, a book that says that something exists and wants everyone to think that thing exists calls people fools for not believing the thing exists. But that doesn't make the thing exist. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, leave be upon her, says that the idiot says with their spleen that there is no Lisa. So, where does that leave us?
You're just a fool. We're trying to help, okay? The fool said in his heart, there's no God. So, we're trying to push you out of the way of a speeding car. We're trying to get you ready for Judgment Day. Whack up. Pay attention, boy.
The whole Judgment Day thing really sounds strange to me. So some folks believe that you go up to a heaven and there's someone there that decides whether or not you go through some pearly gates or down to an extra warm eternity of torture. Firstly, you get to go upstairs if you've done good and worshipped the correct entity. But once you're in, does the worship stop? Do you just get to hang around with past loved ones? Or do you have to continue worshipping that deity for all time to keep your place in a good afterlife? Because that sounds dull. And what about getting sent downwards? What happens to you for not accepting there's a being that never actually demonstrated itself to you? I've heard some folks say that the devil tortures you. But why would an enemy of something do bad things to you for not doing the things its enemy wanted you to do? That makes zero sense. If anything, Satan should be saying, you ignored God too? Come on down and party then. But anyway, I got way off topic there.
Tonight, a guy named Forrest Valkai. I never heard of him till today. Somebody sent me a link and said he did something against Matt. And Matt said, forget him, don't waste your time. I said, oh, he says there's 16 genders. Brother, I taught biology and anatomy. I can't think of more than 2. 16 genders, really. Anyway, I'd have to have that proven to me, Forrest. I'll debate him anytime with any number of assistants he wants. Just call Standing for Truth. We'll do it on their platform. Run, Forrest, run. You're about to get whacked, okay?
If ever there was anybody that I assumed wouldn't be worried about a Kent Hovind whacking, it's Forrest.
Here we go. That's the real evolution right there. I love it. Okay, this guy Forrest claims to be a science teacher. Forrest, an evolutionary biologist who teaches science on the internet. I think anybody could claim that title, couldn't they?
Must not attack people, only ideas. Must not attack people, only ideas.
Embarks on a quest to endure videos from people who claim everything he studied in college is wrong. Well, Forrest, I don't know what you studied in college, and I've never said everything you studied is wrong, but if you believe you came from a rock, that's wrong. If you believe you're related to a banana, that's wrong. If you believe animals turn to something else, that's wrong.
There's not much here to say why it's wrong, though, Kent. Also, when I say not much, I mean nothing. Just saying that's wrong doesn't actually make it wrong. Animals don't turn into something else. No one claims that.
So here, I don't want to play his whole video. I just want to get the part where he talks about homologous structures from about the 12-minute mark.
So I watched the start of Forrest's video, and it has a lot of information about the difference between the word theory and a scientific theory, plus loads of information about evolution. It seems very dishonest to leave that out of this video, Kent.
Suppose there were a supernatural intelligent designer,
give me more volume?
and he created a world where many organisms would need to drink the same water, eat the same kinds of food, walk over the same types of terrain. What would happen? Well, obviously, he would use similarities, similar structures to accomplish his goals.
Okay, so what you're doing here is you're begging the question. You're saying there's a creator. He made everything and he would do it the same way. Therefore, we see these homologous structures which verify that there's this creator. Now, you can very easily try to turn that around and say, well, evolution's doing the same thing. I think they evolved and therefore it looks like this. The difference is, in science, we look at the evidence and we say, where is this evidence pointing to?
It is wishful thinking, Forrest. In science, you look at who's funding me and let's please them. That's what you do. But
Is that a tiny glimpse into how things work at Dinosaur Adventureland? Whoever funds it gets their way promoted. I wonder if we could get a huge atheist sponsor to pay Kent Hovind for a year and then see if he changes what he spoke about.
What you're doing here is saying, here's the solution that I'm trying to get to. Let's go find evidence for it.
exactly what you evolutionists do. You've already decided everything evolved with no God involved. That's already decided. You've already decided everything came from an amoeba. Now, everything has to match that evidence. You have the preconceived idea. It's you doing exactly what you're accusing others of.
Surely it's looking at what's going on and trying to piece together how. You start with a blank slate. If people who studied evolution found that it was, indeed, some kind of creator, they'd suggest that. The fact is, it doesn't appear to need an outside force. It's just observable as it is, naturally. You don't need a no-God start point. You just need a start point.
Because what you ended up doing here is now, instead of just explaining why homology doesn't make sense to you, you've invented a totally new, different claim that now there's this creator here that you now have to justify.
You've invented the claim that there's a common ancestor to a mosquito and a whale. You invented that claim, and now you got to justify it. He's doing exactly what he's accusing us of, but go ahead, Forrest.
Hang on. When did Forrest say mosquito and whale? Trying to falsify something by making it sound ridiculous is another dishonest route. Picking two creatures that look nothing alike to try and make out it's absurd to think they're related somehow is really just silly. Though it has been demonstrated that there's a common ancestor to all life on Earth around 4 billion years ago. I am a proud descendant of Luca.
You have made a completely different argument. You haven't just gone to say, hey, this doesn't prove evolution. You've said this actually does prove something else, which you haven't provided any actual evidence for. And beyond that, you've made another claim about that designer's characteristics, about how they think and how they operate, that, of course, everything lives on the same Earth, so this designer gave them all similar characteristics. What about the ones that they didn't give those characteristics to? What about the ones that have characteristics that don't suit the way that they live? What about whales, for example? If you look at almost any tetrapod, you've got this same bone pattern of one bone, two bones, little bones, long bones. And you see that in dogs and in humans and in sheep and in chickens and in bats and in whales and dolphins and porpoise. The ancestors of whales were land animals.
You are dreaming. Actually, you're having a nightmare, Forrest, okay? Whales have always made baby whales. No exceptions. None. We're going to talk a few more minutes here.
So completely ignoring what Forrest said about the bones and jumping into something that wasn't even mentioned. Of course whales give birth to whales. No one is saying that whales make anything other than whales, especially not Forrest. However, if after 3,000 generations of whales birthing whales, there were certain mutations and environmental factors that affected the species, they'd still be whales, but they might also not resemble the first whales from over 3,000 generations ago. So they could be classified as something else. And yes, that was oversimplified, but I do have a basic concept of how evolution works.
We're going to talk about homology, his argument for evolution.
That evolved back into the water to become marine organisms. Whales have little hip bones and leg bones that you can't even see because they're tucked up under all their blubber. Those are vestigial structures, by the way.
You are lying or stupid, okay? Tell your mama I told you that, okay? They are not vestigial structures. Those little bones are part of the whale's reproductive system. They have to mate in the dark underwater, and they can't talk and don't have any arms and can't say, scoot over, honey. They have to maneuver their giant penis 15 feet long with those special muscles and bones. They are not vestigial structures. Study your anatomy, Forrest. Run, Forrest, run. You want to debate on that? Call Standing for Truth. I'll take you on that topic. Do whales have vestigial hip bones? No, they don't. You're either lying or you're dumb about whale anatomy. Quit saying you're a science teacher. You're an evolution religious preacher is what you are.
This might not be the gotcha you think it is, Kent, since yes, the hip bone remains and helps with mating, it's still hanging around from a time when whale ancestors walked on land. But whilst vestigial, they also have some use, so that's maybe why they've stuck around as they have. Though I've just realised something. Maybe this is why I have tiny hips.
Which help to verify their evolutionary past. Now, granted, that isn't always the case. There are some structures that resemble each other, but those two organisms don't have a common ancestor that had those same structures.
So if they resemble each other and had a common ancestor, it counts for evolution. If they resemble each other and they don't have a common ancestor, it counts for evolution, doesn't it? That's their thinking. I think as far as I want to go here.
That does happen, but we have a word for that. It's called analogous structures. It's called convergent evolution, finding the same body plan.
So if you have a word for it, it's got to be true. Well, let's talk about one thing at a time here, Forrest. Homologous structures. Let's see. Homologous structures right here. Do homologous structures prove evolution? I don't think so.
Kent doesn't think so. Okay, I'm convinced it's wrong then.
This is lie number 22 in my video series, video number 4, Lies in the Textbooks, DVD number 4. You get the whole series, $50. Watch number 4, Lies in the Textbooks.
Maybe better named Things Kent Doesn't Understand on DVD.
This is one of the many lies they teach the kids in school. Of course, what's a 5th or 6th or 7th grader supposed to do? The teacher says it's in the book, it's got to be true in their brain. This is propaganda.
Meanwhile, Kent thinks everything in a book is true. That book being something that hasn't ever been demonstrated to be the word of a creator. So what makes his book, and apparent DVD series, true, and not the textbooks in science class?
Homologous structure is an example of an organ or bone that appears in different animals, underlying anatomical commonalities, demonstrating descent from a common ancestor. No, this is a common creator. But we'll get to that in a minute. In other words, it's very different animals have hip bones that appear to be very similar in form or function and seem to be related, only in your mind, okay?
Why is it that everything Kent says can be applied to his belief? It all came from a common creator, huh? Only in your mind? Okay, this isn't actually getting anywhere.
In the following photos of plants, the leaves are quite different from normal leaves we envision. Oh, the pitcher plant, the fly trap, yeah, okay, the cactus, they're different, I agree. Evolutionary theory predicts related organisms will share similarities that are derived from common ancestors. Similar characteristics due to relatedness are known as homology. Homo means same, okay? Homology. Homologies can be revealed by comparing the anatomies of different living things. Cellular similarities, studying embryological development. What a lie, been proven wrong since 1874, and they're still teaching it.
Proven wrong since 1874? Almost 150 years ago? If that's the case, he should probably think that cholera and chlamydia are caused by pollution, and also that continents don't move.
Studying vestigial structures. Oh, you don't need it anymore, so that's proof how we got everything. I see. You keep losing and losing and losing until you have it all. You should run for Congress. Help those guys borrow their way out of debt. Mm-hmm.
That must be an American joke that I don't understand, since I've not been here long enough.
Individual organisms. Let's see. Evolution, or evidence of evolution, homology. What observable evidence exists to support the idea that life on Earth has evolved its diversity through a long process? One of the most powerful forms of evidence is homology. Miami University, the students have to learn that garbage, right?
And having a photoshopped picture of a duck with a croc head has what relevance? No one has ever suggested that this has ever happened. Well, unless it's someone who doesn't grasp the simple concept of small changes over time. But then, if you think the planet is only a few thousand years old, there's no helping you.
Similar body parts may be homologous structures or analogous structures. See, they can have it either way. Both provide evidence for evolution. Homologous structures are structures that are similar in related organisms because they were inherited from a common ancestor. These structures may or may not have the same function.
Is that, all you have to say? You brought up whale pelvises earlier. And that's a perfect example.
It's all over the internet. This is one of their biggest evidences for evolution. And Forrest, if you think this is evidence for evolution, call Standing for Truth. We'll debate one topic only, and this will be the topic, unless you got a better one you want to choose. You think homologous structures proves evolution? Really? Okay, bring it on.
I actually would like to see that, because so far, all Kent has brought to the table is, you're wrong. It was a creator. Nothing to explain why it could be, just what he thinks about it. Forrest should feel very safe so far with this whacking.
But this is in all the biology textbooks. I got 40 or 50 of them right here from schools all over the world. Homologous structures provide evidence that these animals evolved from a common ancestor. Oh, really? Okay, there they are. The forelimb of the crocodile and the whale and the bird. Similarities don't prove evolution. There's a great article on this on, where did I get this? This is from 30 years ago. So-called homologous structures are no proof of common descent and are no proof for evolution.
Originally published in Creation 14, so a magazine that's for creationists, written by a creationist, Carl Wieland, who doesn't have an accepted science degree as far as I know. And why would I? I don't go around studying Carl Wieland. And the magazine says it's not proof of evolution? Okay. Surely the purpose of this document is just to confirm to people who don't accept evolution that they're right, even though it's written by someone else who doesn't accept devolution.
Charles Darwin believed similar structures in different animals strongly suggested a common evolutionary ancestor. In many cases, what are called homologous structures are produced by the action of different genes. So the forelimb bones, the radius and the ulna, might have come from totally different gene structure in the human than they do in a different animal.
Hang on. This is still the same paper that was written by Carl. Why are we listening to this?
Here's the difference. I can't prove the homologous structures are evidence of a designer, and you can't prove they're evidence of a common creator, a common ancestor. But we all have to pay for your theory to be taught, don't we, Forrest?
Because one appeals to natural explanations which can be observed. It's just a matter of whether they're accepted or even understood. And the other appeals to a supernatural magic which hasn't been demonstrated.
The feet of the different chimpanzee, orangutan, gorilla, etc. are very, very different. They can hang from a branch with their toe on one side, big toe, and other toes on the other side. Let's see you do that. Pick a low branch.
And what's that supposed to demonstrate? Those feet even give away a lot, and I'm not even a trained biologist. I have, however, spent a lot of time watching David Attenborough on nature documentaries to have learned a little bit about primates. The orangutan and siamang spend the majority of their time living in the trees. As you can see from Dr. Dino's screen grab, here the siamang and orangutan foot has the large or grasping toe set further back than that of the chimpanzee and gorilla, whose big toe is set further forward for walking on two terrains. The chimpanzee spending around half their time in the trees, and the gorilla spending up to 20% of its time in the trees. Then we look at the baboon. Baboons spend the majority of their time on the ground, which wouldn't need as much of a grasping toe as observed here. And this ugly little slab of meat belongs to a beast that spends even less time off the ground. Like I said, I'm no expert, but that's what it looks like to me. Also, 1 in 13 humans have a mid-tarsal break in their foot, which is a leftover trait from our ape-like tree-dwelling ancestors, so that's pretty cool.
The grasping hand. American Museum of Natural History and Propaganda for Evolution.
I hope it makes you feel better calling it that, Kent. It doesn't add to the conversation in any way, but whatever.
The grasping hand of the primate are an adaptation to life in the trees. The common ancestor of all primates evolved an opposable thumb. Wait. Could it be it was designed with the thumb to grab the opposite side of the branch?
Could it be that Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leaf be upon her, licked magic rainbow glitter onto the hands of the first humans she pooped out and gave them the ability to pick up things?
Oh, no, can't be. Okay. What makes human hands unique? Same article. The human opposable thumb is longer compared to finger length than any other primate thumb. This long thumb and its ability to easily touch the other fingers allows humans to firmly grasp and manipulate objects of many different shapes. The human hand can grasp with strength and with fine control, so it can throw a baseball or sign a name on the dotted line. Where's the thumb? When moving quickly through the trees, spider monkeys use their hands like hooks and swing from branch to branch. Spider monkeys have evolved an extremely small thumb bone. A full-size thumb would hinder their swinging. Oh, maybe they're designed for swinging in the tree.
Or maybe the ones that had longer thumbs were slower and were caught by predators and not able to pass on their long thumb genes. Well, that one was easy.
The hands are different. The feet are different. The rib cage is different. The pelvic bones are different. You say, but yeah, they look kind of similar to me. That doesn't prove common ancestry. You can imagine that it does. Humans have a hip bone, their legs angle out, hips angle out to the side. Chimpanzees don't have that. Sure, there are some similarities. The same God designed them all.
At this point, I think Kent just spouts word vomit and hopes it sticks. He literally just said there are similarities. That wasn't evolution, it was a designer. Well, sure, Kent. That designer was Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, leave be upon her. That holds as much weight as you saying it was your God. Or, it could have been evolution.
98% genetic similarity, they say. However, we're not as similar as you think. There's all kinds of articles saying, look, we are not as similar as you think to chimpanzees and orangutans and apes, etc. Understanding science. 97% of scientists agree with whoever is funding them. I like that. Bingo, you got it right there. But the textbooks teach this homologous structures as evidence for evolution. Really. Homology, evidence for evolution. They descended from a common ancestor, essence of biology. Oh, Campbell book, right? Campbell, I'll take him on any day. Modern textbooks are used in Michigan, University of Michigan. Homology, for example, the forelimbs of vertebrates are all homologous structures with different appearances and functions that all derive from the same body part in a common ancestor. This is propaganda. You're lying. I'll take on the whole state of Michigan. All you scientists. All of you. Bring it on. Okay?
I'm not sure how reading out science books and saying, I'll take you all on in a debate is whacking Forrest. Kent is literally just reading things, saying no, and then moving on. Are his whacking days more sitting in a bathroom with pictures of men in the late 1800s with dead pterodactyls?
Critical thinking, right. Is this Miller, the Catholic biology teacher up in Rhode Island? A seal's flipper and a human arm have very different functions. What evidence might help to show that both structures evolved from a forelimb of a common ancestor? None, Kenneth, none.
But why not, Kent? Just saying none is the debate equivalent of you putting your fingers in your ears and saying, la, 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 I can't hear you.
Commonalities suggest these and other vertebrates are all related. They probably evolved from a common ancestor. Commonalities suggest they're all related, had a common ancestor. The bones develop from different genes in different organisms. Evolutionists cannot explain it and seldom discuss it. Why isn't the gene code identical?
Just saying science words doesn't make you right, Kent.
Irish textbook, still teaching the homology stuff. Let's see, that's a Russian or Ukrainian? I forget. I traveled. I used to get the textbooks from every country I went to and look at, they all use the same evidence, lying about evolution.
All using the same evidence and lying, or all using the same evidence and not concluding it was something undemonstrated and supernatural, but going, here's how it can be explained in the natural world. Here's how to observe it.
Human, cat, whale, and bat. Look at that, boys and girls. We all have fingers. Yeah. Works good, doesn't it? I think it works good. I like mine. Similar design might prove the same designer made them. The lug nuts from a Chevy will fit on a Pontiac. That's proof they both evolved from a Toyota or Honda or skateboard. Conclusions from comparative anatomy. Many animals have a similar forelimb structure. They must have had a common ancestor. Oh, now that's a bad conclusion from a good observation. This helps prove we came from a rock. Now you got a really bad conclusion.
It's a bad conclusion because Dr. Dino says so. Okay. And literally no one other than you is saying we came from a rock.
Bird and insect wings are analogous. They serve the same functions, but have different evolutionary organs. So the insects don't have any bones in their wings at all, but that's still evidence for evolution, isn't it? So whether they have bones that are similar or don't have bones at all, everything counts as evidence for your religion.
I'm sure at this point a biologist would explain convergent evolution, but I'm not a biologist. I'm just a floating circle. Well, sometimes.
For a guy who can't tell there's only two genders, male and female, he may have a hard time telling the difference between a bird and a chimpanzee or a rock and a whale. He claims to be a science teacher. Run, Forrest, run. Or call Standing for Truth and schedule a debate on whatever you think is best. What's the best evidence for evolution?
So now dismissing gender identity too. Geez, Kent, you really are a tool. Forrest has said some incredible things that have been massively helpful to trans allies, and I've linked an amazing clip from the Atheist experience, which I thoroughly recommend watching if you haven't already.
Forrest, I'll explain to you when we'll go out for a ride. I'll explain there's only two genders, okay? Only two, okay? If you believe there's more, I'm sorry for you. But you're a science teacher, I want to help. I'd like to have you on the creation side. I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend. I'm doing this whacking atheist on you because you need to wake up. You're not only been taught something dumb, you believe something dumb, and you're teaching others something dumb.
And if I were to say the same about you, Kent, which is actually more accurate, it's deemed a personal attack.
There is no evidence for evolution, none.
Okay, well, there's no evidence for creationism. None. We've just said the same thing about each other's respective position. Now what? Well, I don't really have to do much to prevent Forrest from a whacking, since Kent did most of the prevention himself. Lots of science words with toddler-like tantrums, and nothing that demonstrated Forrest was offering anything other than some awesome information. But maybe you thought differently. Did Kent whack Forrest hard? Or did Forrest dodge a creationist-shaped sledgehammer? Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as Kent probably whacking other things more successfully, if you know what I mean. A big thank you to this month's ticks on Patreon: MISM, Addy Rockart, the Enixes, Travis, Elizabeth, Jakari, and the absolute lunatic Jimmy, as well as all the base ticks. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/theskeptic. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically, and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.